Adolf Hitler is a thing again. UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell was the latest in a series of public personas trying to rehabilitate Hitler. And we've seen this rehabilitation in various forms. Andrew Tate, for example, claimed that good patriots wouldn't disagree with the things Hitler actually believed. Tucker Carlson hosted a hobbyist historian who believed that the real villain in World War II was Churchill and not Hitler. And remember, these are people with an audience of tens of millions of people. And this rehabilitation works, it turns out. Speeches of Hitler are translated to English by artificial intelligence, and they are a major success on TikTok with millions of views, mostly among young people. Whereas 20% of Generation Z Americans, according to an opinion poll, think that Hitler had some good ideas. Now, you might take this statistic with a pinch of salt, but the fact is that Hitler is making a comeback in popularity. Now, the question is, why did this happen now? Why is Hitler relevant again at this particular moment, at this cultural moment? And the answer is that there are three factors at play here. The first factor is that we live in times when truth doesn't really matter. The idea that there is such a thing as truth is not popular. So whether Hitler was a good guy or a bad guy, whether he murdered millions or not, is these days, like everything else, a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of facts. It is a matter of, oh, I believe this, you believe this. And the fault for this tendency lies first and foremost with our education system and the intellectual ideas in academia that have been destroying people's brains for ages. This is the ideology actually of postmodernism, the ideology that taught us that there is no truth. There are only narratives. There are only stories. And now, which of these stories will pass us the truth? Well, according to postmodernism, this is a result of who has the power. He who has the power can pass his truth as the truth. Because remember, there is no the truth. There is my truth versus your truth. Now, how does this apply to the Hitler case? The postmodernists will say, the Allies won World War II, therefore the narratives that the winners established is that Hitler was bad. Notice, this is the story of the winners. And because the winners have more power, today we believe that Hitler is bad. And of course, the Nazis happily adopted this idea. Yes, of course, there is no objective truth that Hitler was bad. This is just a story of the winner. And now it's time, they say, to challenge this story of the winner. And let's take it a step further. This postmodernist mindset implies that there is no way for us to establish whether Hitler was objectively bad or not. So good and evil is in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder with the most power sets the narrative. Now, someone could say, wait, Nikos, do you take then responsibility away from the neo-Nazis? Of course not. They have free will, and the garbage that they have in their head is on them. And of course, I don't mean that the neo-Nazis have been reading the postmodernists, although some of them have. But these crappy ideas have infested our culture so much that they became the dominant way people view the world. This idea that there is no truth, there is no objective truth. This has become, unfortunately, the norm these days. And there is this cynicism towards the idea that we can actually know the truth. And this has as a result people saying, well, the elites have been telling us lies all this time on everything. Therefore, whatever now the media or the academia tells me, I will never believe it again. Everything you've been taught is a lie. So maybe even the story of World War II is a lie. That's what they say. Of course, they don't offer any better way of figuring out what is truth from false. Therefore, they are these Hitler rehabilitators, they are postmodernists on steroids. The second reason why Hitler has become a thing again is the widespread tribalism and the widespread contrarianism that has taken over the mind of so many people out there. Now, here's how contrarianism works. According to contrarianism and the mindset of tribalism, I do not look at the facts of reality to decide what is true and false, what is right and wrong. So it's not that these people dive in history books and they try to read all the sources and figure out exactly what is truth from false. With the tribalist mindset, it is the group and the group loyalty, the tribal loyalty, that decides what is truth and what is false. What my group believes is true, that is truth for me. And here's the contrarian version. I look at the group that I hate, I see the position they hold, and then I go for the opposite position. What the people I hate, what the group I hate is for, I'll be for the opposite. The left and the woke support Ukraine, for example. I will go with Russia. Not because I've seen the facts, but because that's how I make up my mind. I make up my mind based on my group loyalty. And let's see how this applies to the Hitler trend. So the tribalist, the contrarian, says, who are my enemies? My enemies are the woke liberal elites, or these days, the Jews. So for my enemies, who is the ultimate personification of evil? Who is the final boss, let's say, who is completely beyond the pale? That's Hitler. Therefore, they say Hitler is cool. Therefore, they will say, maybe Hitler had something to say. Just because he's the guy my enemies hate, he's the guy I will turn to. As I've said many times, tribalism literally makes you stupid. Tribalism is a mind virus. It makes you stupid. And we see it in this case with Hitler. The third reason why Hitler has become a thing is the fact that particularly since October 7th, anti-Semitism has been legitimized in the West. And it has been legitimized not only among degenerates and neo-Nazis, it has been legitimized also in polite society. How many times have we seen since October 7th in the mainstream media Israel and the Jews presented as bloodthirsty, as killing children, killing civilians for the sake of it, or as controlling politicians, controlling the media in other countries? Have we heard this before? Of course. It's all the anti-Semitic garbage that the Nazis also espoused. And this garbage today is the mainstream. Think about the easiness with which so many people reproduce this huge anti-Semitic lie of our times, the modern protocols of the elders of Zion, the monstrous lie that there is a genocide in Gaza. And all this hate, of course, towards Israel has opened this sewage that is anti-Semitism. And all the disgusting, dirty stuff of the centuries of prejudice and hate, all this disgusting stuff is now out. It's out in the open, and of course, people capitalize on it. And again, they say, oh, Hitler maybe was onto something because he told us the Jews are horrible. Now apparently everyone is telling us that the Jews are horrible. Therefore, maybe Hitler was on to something. I'll finish with this. I won't debunk the whole, Hitler is misunderstood thing, because where to begin? And after all, we talk about the man responsible for the bloodiest war in history. we talk about the man responsible for World War II, a war that cost 75 million lives. 75 million. We're talking about the man responsible for the Holocaust. But apparently, I get it, Jewish lives don't matter these days, unfortunately. So I'll just focus on one argument, one of their arguments, the argument of the rehabilitators of Hitler. The argument that says Hitler was a great leader, or a variation of it. Hitler loved his country. And we also heard it from the UFC fighter, right? Hitler wanted to save his country. So let's just remember this. Hitler literally destroyed his country. He was a menace for the whole world, but he was also a menace for his country. Hitler was the man who led to the loss of Germany's sovereignty. After he led Germany to lose the war, and then the country was split into two. It became a puppet state for decades. Hitler was the man who led to the destruction of Europe. Remember, these people, supposedly they care about Europe, and Europe needs to be united against common enemies, whatever. Hitler destroyed Europe. Not only by bringing war and terror in the continent, but also, let's remember, he's the one who opened the gates to the Red Army to occupy half of Europe from 1945 to 1989, and occupy also half of his country. And this is the guy they admire. This is the guy who was a great leader, apparently. If this is a great leader, I don't know what a destructive and horrible leader is. So to finish, here's the big takeaway. It all starts here. It all starts with how we think. If the way we think, if the way many people think is broken, if the way many people think is not based on using their mind to figure out what is the truth, what is their judgment of reality, but if instead they judge based on whatever they feel like, or whatever the current vibes are, or they view the world based on affiliation to their tribe, or if their moral compass is not based on good and bad, but based on which is the group I hate, then the abyss is the limit of how low we can fall. And it turns out we can fall so low as to even rehabilitate Hitler. Thanks for watching.